Hi, my name's Lane Seeley, and I wanted to share an activity that explores the relationship between energy resources and land, which I've used with my introductory physics students at Seattle Pacific University. Um, so, many of us live in a way that's been completely transformed by access to vast quantities of energy. And the energy that we use is so readily accessible. That when we plug in a device, or when we open the fridge or fuel up our car, we might not even think about where that energy came from, or about the land that was involved in those energy resources. So in this activity, students work in groups to backtrack a specific energy resource that they rely upon, and then they follow the energy story all the way back to when the energy first arrived at the Earth. And along the way, they realize the different specific land areas that support their chosen energy resource. And they also get the opportunity to research the past and present day relationship between indigenous people to the lands that their energy resource depends upon. And finally, they share that research with all of their classmates. So let me just give you an example of what this could look like. So right now I'm using energy to power this computer, and that energy one possible place it could have come from is from a hydroelectric facility, which is at the Baker Lake Dam. And the Baker Lake Dam, the water, the gravitational energy in the water behind that dam comes from the rain that was collected in the Baker Lake watershed, which is shown here. And then the energy in that rain originally goes all the way back to the sun, because it was really the radiation coming from the sun that evaporated and warmed the waters of the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Washington State, which allowed that water vapor to then rise up and gain gravitational energy before it then fell down as precipitation, as snow or rain. So that's just one example of how one energy resource can be tracked back, and all the land that is involved in that process. And it turns out that the Baker River watershed is actually in the ancestral lands of the present-day Upper Skagit tribe. And the Upper Skagit tribe is actively engaged in research and conservation efforts um, to restore and sustain the fish and the wildlife populations within that watershed. So I like this activity for a number of reasons. I think one of them is that it lets students see the many different ways in which energy resources depend on specific land areas within their region, and it also lets them see that all energy resources depend upon land. And then this activity helps students recognize that scientific questions about energy are embedded within specific geographic contexts, and that these geographies have indigenous histories which they may not have previously considered. Um, and it can be a great starting point for deeper exploration of indigenous science, or land sovereignty, or land stewardship. And it can also be a starting point for students to consider their own positionality within the story of the energy resources that they rely upon. And finally, I just think it's a really fun activity. I'm always amazed by the new things that my students discover as they go and try to understand the lands that were involved in whatever energy resources they're investigating. So I hope some of you will enjoy adapting this activity for your own students. And if you do, please share your experiences on the portal, or reach out to me personally, because I know that I can learn a lot from things that you will co-discover with your students if you do this.